I know I've been kind of late on posting videos. Well, it's because, I've been working a lot of hours and stuff, but, in the last 2 weeks, it's been kind of slow in my job, yeah, believe it or not. So I've been using all my free time to catch up on my relaxing time, like I've been using all of the free time to catch up on that, so to speak. So it's been like 2 weeks since the last time I posted a video, but I'm gonna start doing more of them right now, including this one here about my 33 cars. So how's it going, you guys? How's it all going for y'all? I'm good. Everything's all good for me. So I had my teeth worked on yesterday because they're like, one of them was getting bad. It was falling apart, so I had to get new. I'm waiting for the implant. Well, not an implant. It's a waiting for the crowns. Well, anyway, so before I begin this video, I'm gonna show you a little something. I have to tell you about this video a little bit. With every car that I post, you're gonna see something like this, like my description. Basically, it's gonna tell you what car it was, and then the day that I got it right there. The day that I got it, well, it's only gonna be the month and the year, and how much I paid for it at the time right there, and how long I had the car for, and how many miles I drove in the time that I had it for, and then my score. This is what you guys probably might question. The score there that I put, it's gonna be the scale of 1 through 5, like from the worst to good to really good. The first score is gonna be how well I like the car, like the style, or just how well I like the car overall. And then the other score, the second score right there, the 4, where it says 4. I would give that score, like basing it from 1 through or 0 to 5, on how good the car was, how reliable it was, or if I didn't feel the car was good, or if I felt it was gonna have a potential major problem, then I would put a lower score, thinking that it's gonna, like, feeling that it's gonna have something big. Or if I just don't feel the car is really good quality or something, I would put a lower score. So yes. And one more thing to say about this video. Like, most of these cars, pretty much, like a lot of these cars, I had actually bought it for deliveries. So some of those cars, if I'm gonna say that those cars are boring or whatever that is, you're probably gonna get a lot of that in this video, and it's because I had bought those cars for deliveries, because I didn't want to be using a nice expensive car for the delivery, because it was a time when I had to use my own car. When they gave me money, like they gave me an allowance to use my own car. So I used to always have one car for deliveries, like to drive like 200 miles a day in it, or 150, 200 to 250 a day. So I needed one car for that, a cheap car, like something that's not expensive to buy. So I don't have to waste a $20,000 car for deliveries. I would use that car, a cheap car, for deliveries, and then I would have the more nicer ones for the weekends. So you will get a lot of information from this video, saying that I was bored of a lot of cars. So well, those cars were delivery cars. But if I was gonna own them for my weekend car, that they were straight out boring to me. So yeah, so yeah, anyway, so you'll hear through it all through in the video. So okay, all right. I hope you enjoy this video. Oh, oh yeah, and just before I go on, do remember that on the description of the video, you could jump directly to a car that you would be interested in hearing me talk about. So that's all the times will be on this video, like scrolling, and then I'm gonna post the times on the description too, so you could go straight to that car. So you don't have to watch the whole video, So okay. Alrighty. Hi all of you, this is Gil. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my car life. All the cars that I ever owned in my life, like from 1989 until 2022, which is today. So today, it's January 29th, 2022. I had to work today, Saturday. So, it's kind of typical in my job. But anyway, so yeah. So with the following cars, it totals 32 cars that I've owned, that I ever owned in my entire life, spanning from 1989 to 2022 as of today. But the last car I bought was last year, which is the Ford truck, this one right here. So yeah. So with the following cars that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, or that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to basically talk about how well I like the car. And then also I'm going to talk about how did it do? How did it do during my experience? How reliable it was and everything, or how did it just do overall? Like, was it a good car? Was it not? Or was it a bad experience or whatever? So hi all of you, this is Gil. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my car life. All the cars that I ever owned in my life, like from 1989 until 2022, which is today. So today it's January 29th, 2022. I had to work today, Saturday. So, I mean, it's kind of typical in my job. But anyway, so, yeah. So, with the following cars, it totals 32 cars that I've owned, that I ever owned in my entire life, you know, spanning from 1989 to 2022 as of today. But the last car I bought was last year, which is a Ford truck, this one right here. So, yeah. So with the following cars that I'm going to be sharing with you guys, or that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to basically talk about how well I like the car. And then also I'm going to talk about how did it do? How did it do during my experience? How reliable it was and everything, or how did it just do overall? Like, was it a good car? Was it not? Or was it a bad experience or whatever? So I'm going to be talking about my very first car, which was a 1983 Mercury Marquis. That was a car that was my mom's, and my mom gave it to me back in 1989 and I just had to pay for the repairs. And how did I like the car? Well, I loved the car. I mean, I loved the car from the beginning. Well, you figure, because like from the day that my mom got the car, I loved the car. I loved it even when I wasn't driving the car. I mean, I just liked the car because it was a sentimental car, really. Because it's basically a sentimental car because it was the first car I ever drove and stuff. But I love the car. But the thing is, now we're talking about how did it do for me? Well, the car was kind of unreliable. The car did have a lot of problems, and it was kind of a disappointment that I had so many problems, you know. But at the time, you know, I didn't know much about working on cars. So I mean, if I would have had my knowledge right now back then that car would have been okay, because I mean, it would have been easy to work on that. Those cars are really easy to work on, you know. So the Mercury. So during my time, I loved the car and everything, but it just had so many problems, you know. And too bad in 1991 when I had to let it go because I didn't have the money to fix it up, you know. So that was my first car. My very second car ever is this 1984 Mazda 626 red, the Burgundy one that I got. I bought that car like with the settlement for money that I got like from the scooter accident that I had. Well, you know, I love that car because like even before I got it, I had a neighbor who had that car, and from the time I saw that car, I wanted it. I wanted that car, like from the first time I saw one, like when it was close to, for me, when it was close to time to get a car. And when I first saw that car, I wanted it because I like the rims. I like the style of the rims it's different. I mean, but like the day that I got my 626, the Burgundy one, I tell you, I was so in love with the car. I mean, I love the car to death, you know. Yeah. So I tell you, I mean, I love the car through the entire time I had it. I loved the car. I mean, I really loved the car. And then how well did it do? Now we're talking about the second part of that car. How well did it was a really good car. The car was really good, man. It was very reliable. You know, it had 170 when I bought it, 170,000 miles when I bought it. And then I had 214 when it got stolen 2 years later, and it was like the car ran and drove beautifully, you know. I mean, it was a very reliable car. I mean, it was very reliable. Man, it never gave me major problems, you know. Although I had like oil leak problems. I mean, the car, it was a very reliable car. I mean, and I loved the car. I mean, I tell you, it was like the best car I ever had, you know. Like, so it tops the list for the best car I ever had. So, but eventually I got the car back, and then I drove it another like 30,000 more miles on that car, and it did really well overall. I mean, of course, over time it got old and it started like having some problems, you know. But of course, you know, it's gonna happen with age. But overall, that was like probably one of my top favorite cars of all time, you know. So the third car I ever owned, it was a another Mazda 66 when my first one got stolen. Yeah, like when my 84, my red one got stolen. I loved that car so much that I wanted to buy another one like it, and my neighbor happened to have one for sale, and it was the same car that I actually saw. That my neighbor who had one, it was the same one that I saw that made me want one in the first place. So yeah. So I bought the car kind of like off the neighbor, but it needed some work, you know, like the neighbor kind of like beat the car up, and then it needed a new head gasket. So I fixed it up, and then and then it ran well. I mean, it was all good to go. So I mean, overall, like, and now when we're talking about how good the car did, I mean, it did well. I mean, the car did well. I mean, although it had a really bad problem with eating a lot of oil, but I drove it like 20,000 miles like that, and I just lived with it, you know, because I mean, I was having to add a quart every 150 miles. Yeah, I mean, but back then oil was actually cheap to buy back then, but I lived with it. The car was overall reliable other than the oil problem. It was reliable, so overall the car did well. I mean, I liked the car overall, the 1983, even though it's kind of beat up, you know, by the last owner, my neighbor anyway. So the next car, my fourth car that I ever owned, it was in 1995 when I bought it, August 1995. Escort. It was a 95 Escort, brand new. I bought that car brand new. It was the first brand new car I ever bought in my life. Black, the black one. Overall, that car, unfortunately, it was something that I didn't like. It was not something I liked, apparently, because it was one of those cases where my stepdad Joe, when Joe, you know, like I mean, he was like one of those kinds that wants, like, how do we call that? It was one of those cases where Joe had an impulse for me to go out and get a car. And I didn't want to go out and get a new car or anything, but it was kind of like out of impulse, you know, that Joe kind of got me to go to this dealer. And long story short, I ended up getting the Escort. I mean, it was not the car I wanted, but it was like one of those cases where Joe kind of like rushed everything, you know. So that was a bad thing to do. I mean, to let it to be rushed into it, you know. And so, and like, it's like Joe picked out the car for me basically, and it was not the one I wanted, you know. But I did like an Escort, but I wanted a specific one. I wanted the one with the alloy wheels and the tail, you know, they call it the sport appearance package. I wanted one of those, but I ended up getting the cheaper one, like the stripped down one, and I didn't like that, and I didn't even like the color either. So it's like Joe picked out the car, and it was not me who picked it out, so I wasn't happy with the car. I mean, I was very dissatisfied with the car overall, because I mean, it was not the one. It was not what I wanted. You know, it's like when you, like, if you're wanting a Honda or whatever, and you end up getting a Ford or a Subaru or whatever. I mean, or any other car, or any car that you don't exactly want. I mean, it's like that. And but as far as the reliability or how good the car did, well, that car was probably one of the best cars I ever had for reliability. I mean, it was a good car. I mean, it was really good. I mean, the gas mileage was really good on that car. I mean, it was a great car. I mean, overall, besides whether I liked it or not, I mean, it was really good. I mean, of course, it was new. I mean, But I mean, I drove it 50,000 miles. I mean, I was never happy with the car, unfortunately, because it was not what I wanted, back then. So yeah, but overall, the car was just okay overall. I mean, like when you combine the two tests, or the two things together. Now, talking about the fifth car I ever owned, well, apparently, since I was so dissatisfied with the Escort, since I didn't like the car when I got it, I missed my old car, my old red car. I missed that car, so I bought another Mazda 626. But I mean, a mistake I made was not taking my time and looking for a good one, because I saw this 626 parked in the street, and it looked like it was kind of beat up, or it looked like a car. I just like what I saw a car parked for sale, and it was one of those 626s, and I mean, it's like the very first 626 I saw out there, I bought it. I mean, that's a mistake to make. That was a mistake I made. Like I didn't think about looking in an auto trader. If I really like, in other words, I bought the car out of impulse, just because I saw it out in the street. But this car was one of those that looked like it was kind of mistreated, but I didn't care. I mean, I wanted that 626, so I bought it. It was gray like this truck. It was color gray, but later on, the paint job was really crap on that car. So I put new paint, and I painted it tan. I originally wanted white, but I wanted to save $100, and I painted it tan, and I wasn't even happy with the color. Big mistake right there. Don't do that. Don't ever skimp out on the paint job. Don't skimp out on a little bit of money just because, because white, if I would have wanted it white, it would have been $250 at the time. But for the tan one, it was like for a tan paint job, it was $150. And I decided to save a little money and get the tan, even though it was not the color I like. I mean, and I thought it looked pretty white, but anyway, it ended up being tan, and it was not exactly what I wanted. I didn't really like the color, but but anyway, I mean, I like the car. I mean, I really like the Mazda 626, so I mean, I could not stop myself from buying another one. So I got it. So I got the 626. And I mean, overall, I mean, I like through the 4 years that I owned the car for, I love the car. I mean, because it was like my old 66. I love the style. And with this car, I love that sunroof that it had. I mean, I just love the style of that car, I love the style. So yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I could not be without a 626, I mean, I just love the car. But now for the second part of the thing about the car, it was like the worst car that I ever had for reliability. I mean, that car was the worst, because I mean, it's funny because the red 66 that I had, it was one of the best cars I ever had for reliability. But this 626 that I bought in 1996, it was like really bad because it was a salvage title. See, that's the thing, it was a salvage title, and that car had so many problems, and it's like the last owner really messed up that car, man. Like, I mean, it had some weird problems, like the engine, like engine had some major problems. Like the engine ran and drove perfectly, but it was having a weird oil consumption problem, and then I think it was running water in the oil and stuff at the end. But it's like the engine was running perfectly, and then the compression check tested really low on one cylinder, while the rest of them were okay. I mean, like 3 of them read 120 pounds, and then the other single cylinder tested 60. And I just know that it was having weird problems, but I put a new engine in the car, but throughout the 4 years that I had, it was nothing but problems, man. That car, I mean, it was nothing but problems. There's so many annoying things going on with the car, like, and then one of the worst experiences I had on that car was the smog, the stupid smog, like twice, you know, like, well, you know, I had to smog the car to get in my name and everything, but, you know, the stupid thing, you know, like, they wouldn't pass the smog, like, their favorite things to tell me, I mean, and so, and then it turned out being like $1,100 to fix the stupid thing, you know, the carburetor, their favorite thing to say that's no good, you know. So, I mean, that over the 4 years, it was so many problems, you know, and it was because, you know, that salvage, you know, you got to watch for these salvage titled cars, you know. I mean, it was a car that had been in an accident, you know, that car, I mean, it's a car that was really badly mistreated, you know, I mean, those are cars you got to stay away from. You got to stay away from those kind of cars, man. So, well, anyway. For the sixth car that I ever owned, 94 Taurus, red. It was a Burgundy car. I loved that car when I first got it. I mean, I love the car. I love the style. I mean, overall, like throughout the 4 years that I had it, or no, I only had the car a year, or 2 years, I think it was. No, wait a minute. I had it around probably a year and a half, maybe. I love the car. I love the car. I mean, I love the car. I love the way it rode. I liked how it looked. And I love the way it rode. But now the other part of the car, other part of the evaluation, it was not a very good car. I mean, that car had some big problems. You know, the transmission died after only 10,000 miles of driving it, you know, like it had the transmission died at 113,000 miles, and it was kind of upsetting for that to happen, you know, because of all the people, like all the crap talking that I heard about a Ford back in those days, you know, like people always talked a lot of crap about how bad the quality of Ford is back in those days, and so, you know, I tended to feel like people are just exaggerating, you know. But anyway, well, I experienced the transmission dying, which was kind of famous on those cars, you know, for doing, you know. So transmission died, and then I put a new one in $1,200 later anyway, and then, you know, and then later on, you know, they had a lot of plastics breaking, or plastic, or like little, like the plasticky parts breaking, you know, like the power window switches breaking and stuff, and then I had a pretty bad oil leak going on, and the oil leak was coming from the crankshaft seal on the transmission side of the car, and to do that, you had to remove the whole transmission to get to it, to replace that part, and I didn't do it. I mean, I didn't even do it. So overall, I mean, the car was kind of a disappointment for how good it was, because like a lot of little things or annoying things are breaking on that car, you know. So now, for the seventh car that I ever owned, it's a 1989 Tercel. I bought this car because I needed it for work, like so I could use it for deliveries, so I didn't have to use a Taurus for it. And then overall, so how well did I like the car? Well, I didn't like the car. It was the shittiest car. I mean, it's the most boring fucking car I ever drove. I mean, I tell you, man, I tell you, if I had a choice to be in prison for a year or to own that car for 5 years, I would rather be in prison for a year, as far as that is concerned, you know. But I don't know, I'm just being funny on that one. But I mean, the Tercel, it was like one of the most boring cars I ever drove in my life, man. It was agony for me to have that car, but I needed that car because I drove a lot for deliveries. So I wanted to save the miles on the Taurus and my Mazda at the time. But now, as far as how reliable, well, it was a really good car for that. The reliability was really good. It was a good car. I mean, no question about that. No question about that. But eventually I sold the car because it was just, I sold it after only 8 months because it was just too much agony, you know, too much agony on how boring that car was, you know. And so I sold it like 8 months later, you know. But now, talking about the 8th car that I ever owned, well, eventually, like, I sold the Taurus because I didn't want it anymore because of, I mean, I had a co-worker who wanted it, so it was an opportunity to get rid of the car. So I mean, I sold it, and so it left me with just a Mazda only, the 66, a tan one, and then eventually the tan car eventually broke down. My Mazda 66, it broke, and like the engine broke on that car after like 90. I drove the car 93,000 miles, and it broke finally. So I mean, sadly, so I mean, I had to let it go, and so I was left without a car, so I had to immediately buy a car. So, I mean, I went with this 94 Ford Escort, and it was white. That was my 8th car ever. That car, I actually liked the car, despite of not liking that 95 black Escort that I got. I liked this 94 Escort. I liked the 94 that I had, because, I mean, it was the sport appearance package that I wanted, you know, like in the first place. It had the alloy wheels. And it had the tail, and it even had a sunroof, which I like that car. I mean, and I like the style. I like the way the car looked with the alloy wheels and the tail on the back, you know, the 94 Escort. I like the car. I really like the car overall. I mean, because it was like what I like. It was like the style or the package that I wanted, you know, the sport appearance. I mean, I like the car. And so, but as far as the reliability is concerned, it was good. It was a good car. I mean, it was good, but apparently the engine blew up at 133,000 miles. I drove the car 60,000 miles. You know, like I had 75,000 miles, and then like while having the car, like it was not too long later that I found out that I had been in an accident. You know, I'd been in an accident. And I didn't even notice that, but I mean, anyway, but I had a problem with the radiator. It had a leak, and I kept adding water in it all the time. Like, and then it was a big mistake that I made one time when I was dependent entirely on the reservoir, putting water in the reservoir unit and not doing it in the radiator itself. I made a mistake doing that. And so over time, like one day, the car overheated. Now, even after adding water in the reservoir unit, thinking that it was where we put the water, or thinking that it would work. So I thought we could add water there too. I mean, at the time, you know, I thought we could add water in the reservoir unit too. But anyway, like the car overheated. And then after I had an overheating session, that's when the car started making the ticking noise. Ever since that happened, after the car overheated, it made the ticking sound from that point on. And then eventually, apparently, you know, like a year and a half later or so, that's when the engine blew up, involving the ticking sound. So you know what? You have to keep your car like making sure that it's not gonna overheat, because if your car overheats, you could damage it for life. You know, I mean, the engine will get damaged for life. You know, like if you're gonna hear a ticking noise on the engine after it overheated, then the car is gonna be, the days are numbered. The days are numbered on that engine, apparently. You know, so because eventually it's probably gonna give up. You know, so. Anyway, well, that car did well. I mean, that car did well other than that. So I would give it a good score on that 94 Escort. now for the ninth car I ever owned. It was it was my mom's Accord. When my mom needed to sell the car or needed to get out of that car, and I offered to buy the car off of her. And so I bought the car. So overall, how well did I like the car? I mean, I liked the car. I mean, it was not like something that I totally loved. But I think the reason why I only liked the car and not loved it was because of the price point, you know, because I'm used to paying like $5,000 for a car. But when I bought my mom's car, it was 20. It was going to be something that I was going to be paying $25,000 over time. And so I only liked it because of that, because I was used to paying $5,000 for a car. I'm not talking about expecting to get a new car for $5,000. No, I'm not expecting that, but it's just that I would have been more happier getting a 5-year-old Honda Accord for $10,000 than I would have been getting a new one for $25,000, you know. But the car, I liked the car overall. I mean, I liked it because I felt cool in that car, because I felt like I was rich. I felt rich in that car, you know. I mean, yeah, sort of, you know, because it had leather interior, and plus it was the top of the line. It was an EX, and it was a V6 model too. It was a fast car too. I mean, and it had the sunroof. I liked that. I mean, I felt like I looked cool in that car. I mean, I don't know. I just felt like I looked cool. I looked someone rich or something, you know, because driving a brand new Honda Accord, top of the line EX, you know, with the sunroof and the alloy wheels and stuff. But anyway, so how well did the car did? Well, naturally the car was really good, of course. I mean, overall, but I didn't really keep the car long because I didn't really want it anymore, and then I sold it, or I kind of gave it back to my mom because I just didn't want it anymore. I mean, so anyway, I mean, that's the story of the Honda Accord. And leaving me with just the Escort only. So now eventually that's when the engine blew up on the Escort. Like when I moved into the mobile home, the engine blew up, leaving me with no car. So I had to urgently buy a new car. I had to get a new one. So in December 2001, I bought 2 new cars, or I bought 2 of them on the same day. Well, first I got the Nissan Sentra 1994. The Honda Accord was gold, by the way. Well, anyway, the Nissan Sentra, I bought this Burgundy one, 1994 Sentra. That was my 10th car. And that car, I mean, talking about that car, I mean, I did not exactly like the car. I mean, I didn't like the style. It was kind of a boring car. It was kind of a boring car because it was a stripped down, you know. It was a stripped down model. I mean, it was a boring car. I mean, kind of like the Toyota Tercel, but this one was a lot more nicer than the Toyota Tercel, though. So it was a boring car. I mean, overall, I didn't like the car that much because it was boring. But as far as the reliability and how good it did, well, that car was one of the best also. It was also one of the best cars I ever had for reliability and for the price point. I mean, it was the best car for reliability. And I mean, I was able to drive anywhere and not have to ever worry about it breaking down. I mean, it was a really good car, man. Like, gas mileage was really good. I mean, it was very economical. I mean, it was a very economical car. I mean, overall, and then I sold it like 2 years later, or a year and a half later, because it was kind of agonizingly boring, you know. So yeah. Anyway, so I sold the car, but now about the 97, my 11th car ever. about my 11th car ever. It's my 97 Mitsubishi Mirage, the green one. I bought that car together with the Nissan Sentra, you know, because I bought two cars on the same day. Now the Mitsubishi Mirage, how well did I like the car? Well, it was just okay. I mean, well, I didn't really like the car that much. I mean, but it was okay though. I mean, like, because I mean, I liked the other cars better. And I mean, well, for an example, I would have liked a 95 Honda Accord better or something, you know. Or I mean, I liked cars that are sporty, like you know, maybe like a two-door, like, I don't know. I mean, I liked certain other cars. I liked cars that had more to it. Or well, for an example, I liked a Lexus. You know, I liked a Lexus back then, or a Honda Accord. You know, I liked the cars that had more class, so to speak. You know, like bigger than a small car. Like the Mitsubishi was a small car. I wanted a I liked the mid-sized car better. But anyway, the Mitsubishi Mirage, that car, I mean, it was okay. I mean, the car was okay. I liked the style. I mean, the style was nice for being a 97. Well, you know, it was nice for the price that I bought it for, because a 97 Mitsubishi Mirage, that was like the next generation. You know, I mean, that, like, how we call it, the new generation of that car. The 97 was the first year of that model, you know. So yeah, but as far as how good it was, I mean, as far as how good it was to me, or how well it performed, or how good it was for me, it did good. I mean, I didn't have any complaints about the car. It was a good car too. I mean, I had it for several years. I mean, it was a good car overall. It was good. Now for the 12th car that I ever owned in my life. After selling the Nissan, well, I later on sold the Mitsubishi to Cynthia. So I mean, she had the Mitsubishi for a time. She had it, and then I needed to buy another car. I needed to buy a second car in case, because I didn't want to have just one car. I mean, because I was driving for a delivery, so I mean, I didn't want to have a car that, I mean, I wanted to have an extra car just in case the Sentra would break. So I bought this Mazda Protege, 1995. It was a light green one. So that was my the 12th car ever. So I bought this 95 Protege because, you know, I felt that Mazdas were good cars. So how well did I like the car? I didn't like the car. I only bought it because I needed it for work. I needed to buy a car for work, and I didn't want to spend too much money. So that Protege, I paid $1,700 at the time. I didn't even like the car. I mean, so overall, it was kind of a boring car too, just like the Sentra and the Toyota Tercel. It was a boring car. But as far as the reliability, it was probably one of the top cars ever for reliability, like for being the best ever for how reliable the car was. It was one of the top cars ever, because I drove that car more than 100,000 miles and never gave me problems. You know, that car rarely gave me problems, you know. So it was a really good car. I mean, although it was a boring car, but it was a good car too. I mean, just like the Nissan Sentra and the Toyota Tercel, they were good cars, but they're very boring cars too. So it's so agonizingly boring that it makes me want to sell it. I mean, I want to sell it right away, you know. So later on, I sold that, and then I sold the Sentra, leaving me with just a Mazda only. And I wanted to buy a brand new car, so this was going to be my second brand new car ever, and it was my 13th car is the 2003 Nissan Altima, brand new. I bought that car brand new. It was my second brand new car ever. And so, back when I was back in the day when I was wanting to buy this new car, I originally wanted to wait till 2004 to buy the new car, because I wanted to wait till January, because the stickers, like the how like the registration stickers, the years, how they change colors every year. I wanted to wait till January to buy that car, because I wanted to buy a brand new Altima in 2004, and then I wanted to be like the first one, like with the new color sticker. That'd be though. But anyway. But anyway, like one day I could not hold my horses, so I ended up going to the dealer in July 2003, and I walked away with a Nissan Altima, white one. But the thing was, like, I let the dealers take me out for a ride, and I should not have done that. I should not have made the dealer rush me into that car, because I wanted to make sure that this car had a sunroof. I wanted to make sure that I was going to get the exact one that I wanted, but it's like they rushed me into it, or it was my fault, every bit my fault. But anyway, or they kind of like they have they're really good at convincing me and stuff, and then later on they told me that they can add a sunroof on the car, when I feel like it would have been, I wanted to get a car that already had one. But I was thinking to myself that I wanted to make sure that I was going to get a couple $1,000s off the price of the car, off the sticker. I want to make sure I'm getting a couple $1,000s, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to get the exact one that I want, with the sunroof and all that stuff. But I ended up at the end of this day, I ended up with the basic Altima. And then I felt like I got taken out for a ride, and it was every bit my fault. I should not have let the dealer do that to me, man. I should have made sure that but it's my fault. I got the car out of impulse. So apparently, sadly, I wasn't happy with the car, because I didn't like the experience buying it. Because, I ended up paying the full sticker price for the car. Ended up paying the full sticker price. And it was for a car that I didn't exactly want, and I should have made sure that I was going to get the exact one that I want, with the sunroof and all that stuff. And I wanted to make sure that I was getting a couple $1,000s off the price of the car, but I ended up with the Altima paying full price and not getting the sunroof on it. I felt that I should have been able to at least get a sunroof on no extra charge, but it didn't work. It didn't happen, apparently. So overall, I wasn't happy with the car. I wasn't happy with the car, apparently, because it was not the one I wanted. It was like the Escort, the situation with the '95 Escort that I bought in '95. But as far as how good the car did, well, the car was good naturally, but I had these little things breaking on. I know I had a little plastic piece, like the steering wheel controls. I had those breaking off and stuff, and then I didn't really like how the car drove. I didn't really like how the engine sounded. It didn't sound solid. It didn't sound solid. I just didn't really like how the car drove. I didn't really like how how buzzy the engine was on that car. I just didn't like it. So overall, the car naturally was good, as far as the reliability, but I was questioning about the buzzy engine, the way it's buzzy sound, and then of course, a car that I was hearing water rushing in the dash every time I accelerated. It was a weird sound I was hearing, so that car was kind of questionable about the reliability. So, it was just questionable, but of course, naturally, I only drove the car 15,000 miles before I sold the car. Sold the car at 15,000 miles, so, because I traded in, I didn't like it. I didn't like the car, so, I was unhappy with that, so. now you gotta check this out. Now you gotta check this out. Now for the 14th car that I ever owned in my life, the 14th car that I owned in my life, it was a 1985 Mazda 66. Apparently, it was like one day I saw this ad on the Auto Trader on the computer, and I saw this Mazda 66, and it was everything like my red one. And so that car, I felt like I gotta get it because it looked like a nice one. It looked like a nice condition one in the ad. It looked really nice, so I went ahead and got that car, you know. I went ahead and got it. And miraculously, it's funny because I bought it like on the very last day of 2004, you know. I bought it on December 31st, 2004, yeah. So, so I got the car out of wanting to reminisce the time when I had it. I wanted to reminisce the days that I had a Mazda 66, but the thing was, so overall, how well did I like the car? It just didn't feel the same, you know, like, cause, I wanted to reminisce that when I had the red car, you know, like the red car, that's the car that was my favorite. I wanted to reminisce myself having the red car, but apparently, that car wasn't red, and it was not it just didn't feel the same, you know. I didn't feel it. I really didn't feel it with that car, overall, because it was not a red car, it was a blue. It was a light blue with a blue interior, and I didn't own any of those in the old days, you know. So I just didn't feel it, unfortunately, with that car. So overall, but I still liked it. Because it was a classic car, so I still liked it. So it was just okay, only because of the color, only because it wasn't the same, you know. I just didn't feel it being the same. It wasn't the same anymore, and like the reminiscing feeling, you know. So, but as far as how good that car did, well, it was probably even better than any of the other cars I ever had, because, you know, later on, apparently, since I didn't feel it, because it was not the same color, since it wasn't red, and it just wasn't the same, and since I didn't feel it, I decided that I wanted to sell it later on. And then later on, I couldn't even sell the car, or at least not for the price I wanted to, so I decided to go ahead and make use of it. Decided to just use it as a delivery car. So yeah, used it as a delivery car. So so for like 2 years, for I think more than 2 years that I had the car for, I used it for deliveries, and it did really good. It was a really good car. Even better than the red car that I used to have. But I feel like that car, it was one of the best cars ever for reliability as well. Apparently, it was a 20-year-old car, but that car actually did better than my 10-year-old Escort that I had at the time. You know, I drove the car. I drove it a total of like 75,000 miles, and then I sold it because I just didn't feel it anymore. I sold it for like $1,000 at the time. So, so yeah, I just didn't feel it. So, but the car was really good. But now, like, I feel like, do I regret selling the car? Well, I do and I don't. But, I feel like I kind of made a memory out of it, sort of, you know, because, like, reminiscing memory out of it, you know. So, yeah, it was fun during the times that I had it, and it was fun owning that car, even though it was not the same one. Even though it just wasn't the same as the red one, you know. But, but I kind of felt that maybe I should have kept that car to keep it as a classic, you know. I wanted to keep it as a classic. So, but I just didn't feel it good enough. So I decided to just sell the car. And then later on, I feel like maybe do I regret it, you know? Do I regret selling the car? Now, going on to the 15th car that I ever owned. It's the 15th car I ever owned. It was another brand new car that I bought when we got married. When me and Jenny Lynn got married. See, Jenny Lynn, like, had always told me that she loved Civics. That she loved a Honda Civic. And we were going out to get a two-door. She loved a Honda Civic two-door black. It's like particularly black. And so we went out to get a Civic, but the dealer convinced us to get a four-door, right? So, I mean, so we got this 2005 four-door Civic. But, I mean, the dealer convinced us to get a four-door because we were going to have a baby soon, you know, right? So we got that car. I mean, so we got it. I mean, so as far as how well I like the car, well, I like the car. I mean, I love we had the top of the line model. I mean, you had the EX, I don't know what it was called. I know that it was like a model that had some little extras, you know, like a little bit of that, including a really nice stereo system in that car. It was like an MP3 stereo, 6 CD system. It was really nice too. I mean, it was a nice stereo. I love the stereo in that car, you know, yeah. I mean, overall, I like the car. I mean, like, I like the Civic. And of course, naturally, the Civic did really well too. I mean, of course, I mean, it did well. And the gas mileage was not bad and everything. Though, overall, I liked the car because it was fully loaded. It was a fully loaded car. I mean, it was like the top of the line. It was $20,000 for the car at the time, you know, so I liked the car, but at the end, later on, you know, Jenny Lynn, you know, like wanted to get a bigger car again, like a little bit later on. Well, anyway, like for the story of the Civic, like when we got the Civic, you know, like when we got the Civic, right? I mean, because I was originally going to be trading in that white Altima that I didn't like. I was originally trying to trade that white Altima in, but I mean, they didn't want to give me much money, and so I felt that I was confident for being able to sell the car myself easy. I mean, I was confident, so I just did not. I just bought the Civic without trading in the Altima, you know, without trading it in because I was gonna sell it on my own because I felt like I could get money. I could get more money selling it on my own. But the thing is, you know, those cars are on the higher price points, so it'd be harder to sell that out like to a private party, you know. So it's funny because I thought that it would be easy to sell the Altima. I thought it would be really easy to sell it, but overall, I should have just traded it in because it would have saved me a lot of agony of trying to sell the car. Long story short, now for the 16th car that I ever owned, like because you know I was having a hard time selling the Altima, I decided to just go ahead and like trade it in. You know, I felt that maybe that's what I can do, trade it in, but to get something else that I might like better. I was thinking about getting a truck and stuff at the time, but it just didn't happen, you know, like, so, I mean, like, I wanted to trade in the Altima to get something cheaper, and so, I mean, anyway, like, I was gonna try to get a Sentra. I mean, I just wanted to get something cheaper. I felt like I wish I would have just traded in the Altima, even though they would have gave it to me for cheap, you know, but I felt that I felt like, you know, I don't know, it's just in my mentality that dealers don't want to buy cars off of you. You know, I mean, they don't want to buy cars off of you, but they'll buy your car off of you if you trade it in to buy another one of their cars. That was my mentality to think that then. But I had a hard time selling the Altima, so I decided to go ahead and get something cheaper, and so I got a 2000 Maxima. I mean, a 2000 Maxima was my next car, and that was gonna be my 16th car ever. 2000 Maxima, because I got this Maxima for like $11,000 with taxes and everything, and then I sold the Altima, or I traded in the Altima for 14. and they gave me $3,000 in cash. So I figured I was kind of happy with that because it was going to be cheaper. The car was going to be a little bit cheaper, and it was going to be a little bit better. I mean, more nicer than the Altima. So now, as far as how well I like the Maxima, I like the car. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I kind of like the style. Well, I mean, I like the style of the inside, the interior design. I liked how the interior was designed, but the outside of the car, the exterior, I didn't really care for the way the style looked on the exterior of the car. I mean, I just didn't really care for it that much. Because one of those reasons for me not liking the car is because it was just too kind of like too typical looking. It was kind of like the car was kind of like too typical looking, you know. I mean, well, it did have like the alloy wheels that it had. It was just like these typical like silver colored star rim. It was too typical for me, you know. Like, I mean, so overall, I mean, like it was just okay. I mean, I liked the car just okay. But I like the little extras that the car had. I like the sunroof, you know. I like the sunroof, and I like the heated seats that it had, and I like the little extras that the car had, you know. So I mean, I liked it overall as far as how well I liked the car. I mean, it was just okay, really. I mean, but anyway, and then as far as the reliability is concerned, well, I mean, the car it was kind of questionable on that. I mean, because like something happened on the idling system on the car. Like it was kind of known for these cars. Like something happened and the car stopped idling, you know, like it just stopped idling properly. And then I did something in there on the engine, you know, like the parts for the idling, I guess. And somehow it stayed idling now, but it was not proper anymore. It wasn't idling properly. So I mean, anyway, so the car, I drove it like that. I mean, for the rest of the time that I had it, and the gas mileage kind of sucked on that car. I mean, the power was just okay. I mean, it was not really fast at all. I mean, but overall, I mean, the car was just okay for reliability. It was okay overall. The overall experience, it was pretty okay. I mean, pretty decently okay. So yeah. Anyway. So, but you know what? For the Altima, I mean, I didn't keep that car that long. I didn't really keep it that long, and then I think I sold it after probably like less than a year or something. Cause I didn't really want the car anymore because at the time I had that 1984. I had that 1985 Mazda 66, and then I also had the Civic. So I had three cars at the time. So at the time, I didn't really feel like I needed the Altima. I mean the Maxima. So I decided to sell it. And so like anyway, and then at the end, so I just had the Civic. Talking about my now going on to my 17th car that I ever owned. It was later on when Jenny Lynn, my wife, you know, like wanted something different. I mean, well, actually, Jenny Lynn had this thought about getting something bigger. I mean, because we already had the baby, and the Civic seemed kind of small for it, or we just took it that way. And then Jenny Lynn wanted something bigger, and Jenny Lynn actually wanted to go back to an Altima, you know, like the Altima that like the one that I used to have. And so for the 17th car I got, it was so about that Altima, that '03 Altima, that I didn't have that car that long. I think I probably had it for a little over a year, probably, because the reason why I decided to sell it like later on is because I mean I was afraid of the problems that the car was known to have, because it was only shortly after I bought the Altima that I was plagued with hearing about the problems that those cars had. I mean, I tell you, like the number one problem I was hearing was this stupid pre-cat problem, you know, pre-catalyst problem. I mean, I don't know where they're getting that from. Like they were saying, they kept talking about like the pre-catalyst problem on those Altimas, that they were getting sucked into the engine and ruining them, and then making it eat oil. Like I don't know where they get that stupid shit at. Like with the engine sucking in the Cadillac. Everybody kept talking about that, or I kept hearing about this on the internet. It's all I keep hearing about, this pre-catalytic converter problem, like where they would get, where the pieces of it, where it would break down and pieces of it would get sucked into the engine. I don't know where they get that. And it was getting really annoying to keep hearing about people saying about their engines got ruined because the catalytic converter was getting sucked into. I don't know where they get that stupid crap from, but I just know, that I didn't want to fall victim of that. And that Altima that I had, it was good. It was good at the moment. It was not eating oil or anything, but I wanted to go ahead and sell it as soon as I could. Apparently, though, I put it out on the ad, on the Auto Trader, and apparently I actually sold the car like about a month later, because at the time, those cars were really popular at the time, and everybody liked those cars in those days. So it came to my advantage, that I was able to sell, and the price point was pretty good. If I remember, I got like 11,000 or something, or 10,005. I don't know what it was, but I just know that I was so happy to sell it. I think it was $9,500 I got for the car at the time. I just know I was so happy to sell that car, man, because after hearing about the stupid pre-cat problems with the Altimas and stuff. So yeah, so anyways, that's what happened with the Altima later on, because only like 2 days after I bought the Altima that I heard about all that stuff. If I would have heard about it before buying the Altima, I would not have bought it. But sadly, I had already bought it. And so I didn't want it anymore. After that, I kind of didn't want it anymore after that, So, yeah, Now talking about the 18th car that I ever owned in my life. It was a 2004 Toyota Tacoma truck. It was my dad's truck, and my dad, because like after saying that, how I call it. So at this point, we had the red Altima, and we had the wait a minute. Like, well, I know that we had just bought the red Altima and everything, and then we had the Civic now. So we had 2 car payments at the time. So yeah, we had the Civic and the Altima at the time. And of course, I had my Mazda 66 also that I was using for my work car after a while. But anyway, so while we had the Altima, the red one, the Burgundy one that I bought, and we had the Altima and the Civic, but originally, like, we wanted to try to trade in the Civic again, after only 6 months, like a dumbass, like wanted to try it, and then now that I did it again, where like instead of trying to trade in the Civic, I decided to try to sell it on my own. Apparently that didn't work out. And then so we now had 2 car payments, and so we we needed to sell that Civic again. That was a bad, dumb thing to do. Anyway, so like we were gonna try to do something with the Civic because we wanted to go back to the Altima since it's bigger. We should have kept the white one in the first place. But anyway, we didn't really know what to do, so we were gonna just keep trying to sell the Civic. But nobody wanted to give anything for it. So so I had the thing for sale. Then later on, that's when I talked to my dad, and just out of the blues, I was just telling my dad that, like, how about we trade you our 2005 Civic for your 2004 Tacoma? And then miraculously, my dad wanted to do that, go ahead and do that. So long story short, I mean, we ended up trading each other. We traded cars, you know, like we didn't have to pay any taxes or anything because it was a family thing, you know. So we traded cars because they happened to be worth exactly about the same because we had the same miles and they were worth the same amount. I mean, so we agreed. So we totally trade. I figured, you know, like, I mean, if we can't get rid of the Civic, why not trade it to get my dad's truck? You know, at least we can make use of a truck better than the Civic. I mean, because since I already got the Altima, right? The '03 red Altima, you know, so talk about how well I like the truck. Well, I mean, that truck should have been something that I should have kept because it was something. It was something great. It was something good to keep. You know, it would have been a good car to keep because it would be very useful. It was a very useful truck. It was useful. I mean, to have a truck. You know, so I mean, overall, like, I mean, I felt like how well did I like it? I mean, I liked it. I liked the truck because it would have been useful to keep the truck, and apparently, but how well did it do? I mean, it didn't disappoint me, of course. You know, it's a Toyota. I mean, it was a good truck. I didn't really keep it that long, though, unfortunately, you know, because later on, I mean, I didn't feel like I needed it later on. I don't know. But anyway, my 19th car ever. I mean, I later on wanted to, like Jenny Lynn, like wanted to like we saw this van parked for sale, and then you know it was this 2001 Dodge Caravan, Dodge Grand Caravan. We saw this van parked for sale for $4,500, and it was only 6 years old at the time, and I thought that was a nice deal, man. Like $4,500 for that van, it was a nice price too. I mean, and it was a nice looking car too. I mean, and then Jenny Lynn had the idea that why don't we buy that car because that would be even better for us than any car ever. I mean, like shit, yeah. So I figured, yeah, buy it, and then we bought it. And long story short, we bought the van, you know. So when we got the van, you know, I still had that Altima. I mean, I still had the Altima at the time, you know, like when I bought the van, and then it was later on. It was like 2 months later that I sold it at the time. So yeah, I mean, anyway, the Dodge van, it was blue. It was a dark blue. It was a really nice van. I mean, it was a good car. I mean, overall, I mean, the van, I love the van, you know. I love that Dodge Caravan, you know, the Dodge Grand Caravan. It was roomy. I mean, it was the best van. It was the best car that I ever had for what we needed it for. You know, family, like because by that time, you know, Natalie was almost going to be born, you know, by that time. And so we were going to have 2 kids. So the van would make a great car for it. And then plus it's roomy, like whenever we wanted to go to like a vacation or whenever we wanted to visit family or something, we had plenty of room. I like the van on that part. But now as far as the reliability is concerned, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, the van did well overall. I mean, but apparently the transmission did die on the first week that we bought the van. But you know, I take in consideration that the price was really low for the van anyway. So we ended up paying $2,000 to put a new transmission in the van. So it's like I called it paying $6,500 for the van. But ever since we put the new transmission, it was good after that. I mean, the van did well after that. Drove it 40,000 miles, and it did well. I mean, the van did well. I mean, of course, I had a few little problems, but it was not bothersome, you know. But it was a good car overall. I mean, so at that current time, I had the red Altima. Like the time when I bought the Caravan, we had the red Altima, which I would sell 2 months later, and I had the Mazda 66, that 84 or the 85 66, the light blue one, and then later on, and then apparently later on, I mean, like after selling the Altima later on, like going like probably like a few months later on, that we decided that I just didn't really want the truck anymore because I didn't feel like I needed it. I mean, I didn't feel like we needed the truck. So I mean, like we didn't want to have the payment anymore for something that we weren't gonna really need. So I decided to sell the truck. You know, like right away I sold right away. That truck sold right away. I mean, yeah, the Toyota Tacoma that we had. So leaving us with just the van and the Mazda 66 at 85. Now going on to the 20th car that I ever owned ever. It was a 1996 Nissan Maxima Red. It was a stick shift at the time. Since I sold the Mazda 66 at 85 because I didn't feel like I wanted it anymore. I mean, so anyway, yeah, the Nissan Maxima, I bought that basically for work. So I mean, I needed a delivery car, so I needed to buy that. I bought that car, and I heard a lot about Nissan Maximas being one of the best for reliability. But anyway, so I bought the car. But so if I was gonna talk about how well I liked it, well, I liked the car, but I not exactly the. It was kind of like another one of those kind of like boring cars because it was kind of like another one of those typical cars like the Nissan Sentra is, you know, like kind of like one of those. I mean, it was not that boring, but I mean, it was just okay. I mean, well, I didn't really like the styling that much. I only bought it for work, you know, like for the deliveries. So it was just okay overall, like for the how well I liked the car. But now as far as how good it was, I mean, the car was not the best for reliability because you know the transmission died on that car, and that was the last thing I was expecting to happen on that car. You know, the transmission died on that car, and then I had a problem with the also I had a problem with the shocks. You know, the car. I mean, it was kind of dumb that that car didn't even have a stabilizer bar on the back of the car. I mean, that you think of a Maxima, like it's got a V6 and it's supposed to be performancy, but that car didn't even have a stabilizer bar on the back of the car. I mean, cars are supposed to have that. I mean, because it needs to stay stable because the shocks were worn out on that car, and of course the wheels would bounce too much without the stabilizer bar, and then the car rode really badly, like because of that, you know. So I mean, so anyway, I mean, well, I just needed to replace the shocks and it would stop. But I mean, the car should still have a stabilizer bar, but the transmission died on that car. I mean, that was the last thing I was expecting to happen on a car that I heard so many good things about. I mean, so overall, the car was just like maybe a little less than okay. I mean, I didn't really like it overall. I mean, not exactly. I didn't really like the car overall fully. I mean, because it was kind of boring because it had these cheap steel wheels, you know, it had these cheap stock wheels, you know, like, and then, you know, anyway, I mean, well, the styling, I mean, it was just kind of like boring for me. I mean, so that's my experience with the Maxima. It was just average. The Maxima was just average overall. Now for the 21st car that I ever owned, you know. Later on, it went on to like going on to like 2009 and the ending of 2009 when Jenny Lynn like saw this Eclipse. It was a 2002 Nissan, no, Mitsubishi Eclipse. because Jenny Lynn always had this thing about sporty cars, you know, these sporty looking cars, these two-door sporty cars, and this Eclipse looked really cool. It looked really sleek, very sleek, you know. So we got this 2002 black Eclipse, and and what I think of it, like, what did I think of the car overall, like, what did I think? How well did I like it? I like the style. I mean, it was sleek. It was very sleek. I mean, I liked it, but it was kind of like it did look kind of cheap. You know, the material looked kind of flimsy. It looked like a car that it looked like one of these cars that you could buy brand new for $10,000. You know, like it's one of these cheap made cars. You know, but the styling though, I like the styling though. I mean I like the sleek sporty style. It was really nice. I mean, the styling was really nice. I mean, and now as far as how good the car did, as far as how well the car was, it was probably one of the worst cars I ever had. Although the engine and transmission, they were good. I mean, they never broke down. I mean, the car never broke down or anything, but the car was really bad. The quality on that car, it was so bad, man. I mean, it's like I had so many annoying problems on that car. Like a lot of annoying things going on the car. And I mean, like the wheel bearings breaking down on it, or the wheel bearing, and then, you know, a lot of the plastic, the interior plastics, it kept falling apart. You know, like all the interior plastics, you know, they're so cheap. You know, like the dashboard started breaking apart. It started to break, you know, like, I mean, it was a really bad car. I mean, it's so many annoying things that, like the shocks. I mean, well, like the, you know, like the struts for the lift gates. I don't know if that, I mean, well, it's these things that the lift gate struts, I guess, I don't know what they're called. These things needed to be replaced, and then it was like so many little annoying parts that I had to do on that car. I mean, and then the paint, you know, the paint was not original on the car, because those cars were kind of known for like the paint being low quality on those Mitsubishis. And then, you know, like one of the worst things about the car is, like, you know, like the air conditioner. I had a leak. And then it was like, it kind of seemed like it was like that at the first drive, and I knew I should have not have bought that car. I mean, it was out of impulse again. You know, I did it again out of impulse. You know, buying that car. You know, so yeah. I mean, anyway, so that car was really bad because it had so many annoying problems. You know, annoying things going on. You know, like a car that shouldn't, like, with low miles, but apparently it was one of these lease cars. It was one of these cars that was a prior lease. And I know one thing about that car is that car had more miles than what it actually said. Because we bought the car supposed to be with 75,000 miles on it, but it had more miles than that. I mean, and then the last owner probably didn't take good care of it. And it had some weird problems with the gas. Like there were times when the car would only give me like 15 miles a gallon, yeah. And then at times the car averaged about maybe 22. I mean, I used to get like 22 miles a gallon. But there were some weird days when I would only get like 15 or 16 miles. I mean, come on, man. Like, what the hell? I mean, like, that car was really annoying, man. Like, the problems that I was getting. So that car was really bad. Overall, I mean, that car was kind of a bad car. I mean, because of these annoying problems that it kept giving us, you know. So, and then later on we sold it, like after like probably more than 2 years, and I was so happy that we sold the car. I mean, because to get out of a car, I mean, that had a lot of these annoying problems, you know. Now for the 22nd car ever that I bought. It was a 1996 Mazda Protege. It was a red. It was like a burgundy car. I got the car because, you know, we needed a car like for Jenny to practice, you know, and plus I just wanted a new car, like a small car, like because I sold the Maxima, the red Maxima that I sold that car, so I needed a new one, I guess, I think so. I mean, well, anyway, I bought this red Mazda Protege for only $1,200. I mean, and the car was pretty good. I mean, it did have some funny problems going on, you know, like it was idling kind of funny. Well, it had these funny problems, but I mean, I fixed it up, or I was able to get on it, and then I was able to get it going pretty well, and the car did well. So overall, I love that car actually. I mean, it was a nice car. I mean, it was a nice car for the price. I mean, it was a small car, so the gas mileage was good. So I liked the car for the price point. You know, it was good overall. I liked it. It was satisfying. I mean, but now as far as how good the car did, well, it did well overall, but it did have a major problem with it, and it was something that I ended up just living with it. But it worked. It worked. The car drove and everything, but it did have a major problem with the car because it was like it's something on the engine. Like it had very low compression, and it was like to do with the valve seats in the engine. It would not seal really well. It would not seal the pistons, or it would not seal the combustion, or how we call that. Like the compression was low because of the valve seats were kind of like corroded or like deteriorated, and so it would not allow the pistons to get a good compression, and because of that, it made the car very difficult to start on the very cold days. But you know, so on the cold days, I used to have a very difficult time starting the car, but once it started, then it would be good for the rest of the day. But you know, since I was using for deliveries, I was okay because I was using it for the deliveries, and I would be using the car all day long. So I mean, I would be able to go the 150 miles all day long, and I was able to live with it. I was able to live with the problem with the compression on that car, but it was not because of piston rings. Though the piston rings are good because it was not eating oil. The car was not eating oil or anything. But I mean. The car, I mean, it was overall good. I mean, it was good. But in order to fix that problem, we would have had to replace the cylinder head. We would have had to rebuild the whole cylinder head. You know, that would have been pretty expensive to do. But anyway, so that car, I mean, I liked that car overall. I mean, if it would be something that I could live with, I mean, if we could live with it if we don't mind spending like 15 minutes every day starting the car in the cold days. On the cold days, it was problematic during the cold days only though. But if it was in the summer months, it was a lot easier to start it when it wasn't cold. So anyway, now for the 23rd car that I ever owned, it was a car that I bought off the company, my old job when they laid me off. It was a 2006 Nissan Sentra. It was a company car. I bought it off of them. So I mean, overall, like how well did I like that car overall? Overall, I liked it. I mean, I liked it. I mean, it did well. I mean, it did its job. I mean, I was happy, but I was actually happy with the car because of what I paid for it at the time. You know, back in 2011, when I bought the car, I paid only $3,500 for that car, and it was only 5 years old at the time. With 97,000 miles, a company car, paid $3,500. So I liked the car because of the price that I paid for it. But, you know, the car did well, but I mean, like the car. I mean, overall, it was okay as far besides the price that I was so happy about. I mean, I liked the car okay, but it was kind of like a boring car too. I mean, but overall, I mean, I liked the car overall. I mean, the car was fine. I mean, I was happy with the car overall, especially because of the price, you know. But if I was gonna go out there, go to a dealer to buy the car, then I wouldn't buy because it's not something I like, you know. But I bought it from the company because because of the price is really good, so that's why I bought it. Really, I mean. But I like the car overall, mostly because of what I paid for it, and I mean because of being happy with what I paid for it. And as far as how good the car did, I mean it did well. I mean the car did well. It did well, but apparently you know the transmission died at 140,000 miles. You know, like one day I was just driving and I accidentally did a neutral drop, or I accidentally had it on neutral. And then I was revving it, and I accidentally put the gear shift on drive, and it broke the transmission. The transmission broke on that, you know. But later on, I kind of feel like, you know, what the reason why that happened was because, you know, like 30,000 miles ago, I put new transmission fluid in the car, and I feel like if something called for transmission fluid that belongs to a GM car. I don't know where I got that from. Like something, I feel like something called for that, so I put GM fluid in there, and so the car ran fine, but it kind of acted kind of weird, like here and there. But I mean, but it was working. But I feel like it's to do with that. Why the transmission died later on? You know why it did that? Why it did that with the neutral drop? Because I used to have the habit of putting on a neutral because I didn't like the shakiness when it's on drive. I don't like these cars when they're shaking. I hate the vibration. I hate it. So I used to put it on neutral to stop the vibration, and then I would put it on drive when the green light would come on, because I didn't like the shaking. I didn't like the vibration on these automatics, like when they're in drive. So that's the case on that, you know. Yeah. So. Now for the 24th car that I ever owned in my life. It was a 1998 Ford F150 that I bought. It's because, you know, the reason why I wanted this truck was because like I had this thing about buying a trailer, like a travel trailer. I mean, it just out of the blues, you know, kind of out of impulse. I wanted to buy a travel trailer, and so I bought one. I bought a travel trailer using my credit card, and then I had them deliver it to me, or deliver it to the house. And then at that point, I needed a truck. I needed to get a truck to pull it. And then so that's when I had the thoughts about selling the van, that the Dodge Caravan that I had, because I wanted to sell that to get a truck, but I couldn't sell the van right away anyway. But I just bought, so we just went out and bought the truck, a 98 F-150. It was like a medium blue color. It was a medium blue. So overall, how well did I like the car? Well, when I bought it, I mean, I didn't exactly like that particular one. But the reason why I bought that particular one that I had was because, you know, because it was smogged already, and then I didn't have to sweat it. I mean, I wanted something that, I mean, that's what actually sold. That's what got them sold. You know, that's what got them selling that car, or they got their car sold because of it, because of the smog. Like it was already smogged and stuff. So that's why I bought it, because it was smogged, ready to go. I mean, but that truck that I got though, I did not really. I mean, it was not something that I exactly liked, because I didn't like the modifications that was made on that truck. You know, because they put an intake. You know, like, you know, it was like one of these 4x4 modification type things. You know, like they put these big tires on the truck. You know. I mean, I only bought it because because of the smog I figured, I mean, it was like something that I was able to get a hold of the seller right away or something like that, whatever. I mean, I figure, I'll just get that truck. Why not? I mean, so, but overall, I mean, I didn't like the modifications because I liked it better if it was standard. I like if it was like standard equipment without all the little modifications, and because it had an exhaust. It had like an exhaust and made it sound louder. I mean, I wasn't really into that stuff, and the reason why I don't like these modifications is because of the issues with passing smog. That's the only thing that I have to say about it. I mean, like, because I don't want any issues with passing smog. Apparently it was. They were. I mean, I was able to smog it the first time, like 2 years later. but the second time I had to smog it, it was an issue to pass it because they were looking at the modifications. But I was able to pass it. I mean, because I just had to pay them a little extra at the time. So, but as far as the reliability, it was a good truck. The gas, it was a gas hog, but it was good. I mean, it did well. I mean, the truck was good. I had no complaints about the reliability on the truck. So, it did its job really well. I mean, and it was nice to have a truck. For whenever we needed to load stuff on it. It was nice to have a truck, So, overall, I mean, the truck was pretty good. I was happy with the truck overall. I would say. But I just didn't like the modifications on the truck. But I was pretty decently happy with the truck overall. Yeah. Now for the ultimate. My 25th car is this one right here. This is the 25th car that I ever bought in my life. And it's a 2013 Kia Rio. So this car, I would say that this car is probably like the top car ever. The top car ever of the most satisfying car. Of the car that I liked the most. And you could see right here, I still have it. Still have the car, and I've had it for 9 years now. I bought this car brand new 9 years ago in 2013. Right now it's 2022. Right now I still love the car. I love the car. I like the style. I like the style, and I never had a complaint in this car. It's been a really good car. I love the style, and I especially love the stereo in the car. I love the stereo because I like the SD. I like the USB inputs. So yeah, I love the car overall. It's been good to me. Had it for 9 years. So as of this date, I love the car. Overall, it's like, and as far as how good it's been really good. The car, I have no complaints, other than had a problem with the keys. Like the keys, like it would get stuck. And then right now the car is having some minor problems, like I have like the engine is pinging, and it is eating some oil, but it's bearable though. I'm just living with it. The pinging of the engine, I'm just living with it. I just don't drive it hard. But overall, I'm happy with the car because I was happy with what I paid for it. The price was pretty good, $12,000 at the time, brand new. Because I like a car that's not gonna cost too much money, and at least I feel I am happy with the car because I was able to get a couple $1,000s off the price of the car. So yeah, so that made me happy with the car because it's an economy car. So yeah, well, I just know that I posted videos of my review of that Kia Rio like I know I posted a 10,000 mile report, and I think a 20,000 mile report, and a 50,000 mile report, and an 80,000 mile report, and then like in my last video is a 100,000 mile report. And then, you know, as of right now, my car, my Kia Rio, has 121,000 miles on it right now as of this date, January 2022. So it's been good. I mean, it's been good to me overall so far. So, I mean, that's it. So I still apparently have my 25th car ever. And so now... So for the 26th car that I ever owned, it's a 2001, I believe it was a 2001 Honda Civic, or I think it was a 2002. But anyway, I mean, a Honda Civic two-door. It was a silver two-doors Honda Civic, and the story behind that car is like when the transmission died on that Sentra, that 2006 Sentra, later on, like maybe 2-3 weeks later, after I bought that Kia Rio, after buying that Kia Rio brand new, like 2-3 weeks, like 2 weeks later, I decided to go ahead and replace the transmission. I bought a good used one, got a good used transmission for that Sentra, and I replaced it. and then I would call it, and then I sold the car. I mean, and then I sold the Sentra after that. I mean, because I figured that, you know, like if I replaced the transmission, I didn't want to go through the agony what if, you know, like what if it would break down later on. I didn't want to go through that agony. So I just decided to sell it while it was running good. So yeah, I mean, I sold it. and then I bought the Kia Rio. And then when we sold the Sentra, I mean, like Jenny Lynn, you know, like felt like she had this urge to buy another car to replace the Sentra with it. So, and then she was looking at a Civic. So, I mean, she wanted a Civic two-door again, also a two-door of Civic again. So, when we went looking around, and I found this silver Honda Civic two-door, like coupe, and I bought it. I mean, the car. And so as far as how well I liked the car and everything, I liked the car. I mean, it was a nice looking car. I mean, and the style, I liked the style. I mean, it was a coupe. I like the way the Civic coupes look from the like 2001 through 2005 models. I like the coupes better than the sedans, but I like the 2005 Civic, the black Civic we had. I mean, it was just so to me. Well, like the styling anyway, the four-door style of the car. But anyway, so overall, like the styling, I like the way it looked. The two-door, the two-door Civic that we had, the 2001 that we had, 2002 I think it was. Well, anyway. So as far as how good the car did, it did fine, but actually not exactly. It did not do that great. It was not the greatest car really, because apparently the air conditioner died. The air conditioner died on that car not too long later. I mean, like 6 months later, the air conditioner died, and I didn't even bother to fix it because I always know it's going to be expensive to do that. And then I had a lot of annoying things going on with the car too. I had like the bearing going out, and I had to replace that. And I replaced a couple of those, but it was not anything close to being as bad as that Eclipse that I had. But I mean, the car was just okay overall, but apparently the transmission died on that car. I mean, later on, you know, it died on that car. Yeah, just after fixing the transmission on the Sentra. I mean, the transmission died on that Civic. It had about 150,000 miles or something. It had 150. and the transmission just died on that Civic. So I later on fixed it, and I paid $700 to fix the transmission, to put a new one. Well, I took out the transmission and I had them rebuild that one, and it was $700. The total cost was $700. Wasn't too bad. And then it was okay after that. Then like 2.5 years in having that car, we decided to sell it because we just didn't feel like we needed it anymore. I mean, we didn't feel like we needed that car anymore, so we sold it. I mean, like, we sold the car, I mean, like 2.5 years later. If anyone's guessing what's the next car I bought, well, it's this one right here. Bought this. This is my 27th car ever. One day I was like looking around in an ad just for fun, or it was just one day I wanted to look for a Mercury Marquis just for the fun of it. Apparently this car showed up on the it was a Craigslist, you know. They showed up, and so when I saw it, and I saw that like the car was almost everything like my white one, that white Mercury, because this is like, this was as close as it can be. This car was as close as it can be, and you know, knowing that these cars are ultra hard to find now, I figured that, you know, I don't need to wait until I come around one that's exactly like my white one, like including the interior color and the exterior color. I don't need to do that. I mean, this is as close as it can be to that 83 Mercury that I had. So I decided to go ahead and buy this car, because it was kind of like my only chance, because finding out that this is an extremely hard car to find. So I figured that it was my chance to kind of snag it while it was available. So I mean, those cars, I haven't seen any of these cars for sale since I bought this car. You know, it's an ultra rare find, you know, like these cars. So I figured, I mean, I had nostalgia for my old white car, and I wanted to remember my days. I wanted to go back in my days. I wanted to bring back memories, and this car is very close to it, you know, very close to the red one that I used to have, you know. So if it would have been like the case of that 85 Mazda 66 that I bought, that was not the same color in any way. If it would have been that same case with the Mercury, if it would have been a totally different color inside and out, then I would not have bought it, because it would not have been the same. It would not have felt like the same. The memory did not have been the same, so I would not have bought the car. I would not have bought it if it would have been a totally different color. Like, well, I mean, too bad it was not a white car. I mean, like my white Mercury. Too bad it was not white. But the interior color is the same thing. So it's as close as it can be to the original Mercury that I used to have, you know. So yeah, I mean, now as far as how I love it, I love the car. I mean, I love it because it's really close. It's really close to the original 83 Mercury Marquis that I had. It brings back memories because the color of the interior is the same. The car is basically the same, and the interior color, although the exterior is not the same color, but it's close enough though. I mean, the whole car overall is close enough to the experience of the red. It's close enough. So I'm overall very happy with the car. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to own the car. It's fun owning it, you know. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, I'm happy I still have it. You see that I still have the car. So I bought it in 2014. So yeah, it was 2014, a year after I bought the Kia brand new. So And as far as how good the car's been, well, it has not broken down on me since I got it. Well, I only drove it like 6,000 miles, you know. This car, I only drove it 6,000 miles since the day I bought it, you know. So it has not broke down on me yet. So, I mean, well, so overall, the car is a fun experience. This car is a fun experience overall. So, yeah. Uh-huh. Now, talking about the 28th car that I ever owned, well, later on, you know, like that blue F-150 that we had, I mean, I kind of gave it to Hector or sold it to Hector. I sold it to Hector, sort of. And so we were going to be without a truck. And for me, I felt like I didn't want it. I mean, I felt like after having sold the truck and not having a truck anymore, I felt like, I mean, I kind of like, it was kind of hard for me to want to be without a truck because I felt like a truck is nice to have, you know. I mean, it's a nice thing to have. So, I mean, I just had this urge to re-buy another one, you know. So I went with this gray F-150. It was a 2002, not this one, It was another, it was a 2002. We went with this 2002 gray F-150 because I just felt like I couldn't be without a truck. I just didn't want to be without a truck. So I bought that truck, but again, that truck was kind of like custom. It was kind of modified. Well, the engine was not modified or anything, but it had these custom wheels. So it had these chrome wheels, you know. I mean, it looked okay. I mean, the truck looked okay overall. But you know, the condition of the truck, the engine was okay. I mean, it was leaking oil. And it did have some miles. I had 215,000 miles when I bought it. But I paid I think I paid $2,000 for the truck at the time, you know. But overall, I mean, like overall, how well did I like it? Well, I liked it. I mean, for the price point, I liked the truck overall. I mean, I liked it. I mean, even though it had the custom rims, but I was happy that it didn't have like modifications on the engine that would cause a problem, the smog. Because I like everything to be original. Like for me, when it comes to buying cars, I like everything stock. I like everything to stay stock. I mean, that's how I am. It has to be stock. You know, although that truck had I had these custom chrome wheels, but it still looked nice. So I like the truck still. I mean, even though I had those chrome wheels, but I mean, but you know, the condition of the truck, cosmetically, it was in bad condition cosmetically. And it needed a lot of cosmetic work. You know, the interior was kind of like chewed up a little bit, and then the paint, it needed new paint. But overall, I still liked the truck, though. Overall, I still liked it. And then as far as how good the truck was, I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, the truck was pretty good. It did have an oil leak. And then, but I mean, the air conditioner worked really good on that truck. So overall, it was a good truck for the time that I had it. I didn't have it that long, you know. I sold that truck only like about a year later, or less than a year later, because I didn't feel like I needed a truck anymore. So it's funny that I felt like I could not be without a truck, and then like less than a year later, I sell it. You know, I sell the truck. You know, because I mean, I didn't feel like I needed it anymore, so I decided to sell the truck. You know, I sold the truck like a year later. I mean, so yeah. Okay, now on to the 29th car that I ever owned in my entire life. So this was like back in the time back in 2015, when my mom bought a brand new car. You know, she had this 2004 Honda Civic, and she bought that car brand new in 2004, and then she used it until 2015, 11 years, you know. So my mom was the original owner of that 2004, and she bought a brand new Civic in 2015, for which she still has that one right now. Still has it. So it was like an opportunity for me to buy that car off of my mom, you know, because again, you know, Jenny Lind was wanting to go back to trying to get a license and stuff, and so we wanted a car that would be good for that, you know, for her to drive, like to practice and all that stuff. So we bought my mom's car. I mean, since there was an opportunity to buy a car that we know would be okay, I mean, because my mom was the original owner of the car, so yeah. So we bought it, like we bought it for $3,000. We gave my mom $3,000 for the car and everything. And so at that time, what did I think of that car? Well, I mean, the thing I had to say about it is like Honda Civic starting to get kind of boring, you know, to us. You know, it started getting boring, you know. So yeah, I mean the car was fine. I mean, but it was the EX model, that a sedan, and I mean the car. I mean, we just didn't really feel it with the car because I mean it started getting boring, you know. Civics are starting to get boring, you know, because, you know, everybody has one, you know, like, it's the thing about a Honda Civic, you know, everybody has one, you know, and then started getting boring, you know, but, so, I mean, the car was just whatever, like another whatever car. I mean, to me, it was kind of a boring car, I mean, but I like the instrument panel on the car, though, however, you know, like, and then I like the alloy wheels that car had. So I had the sunroof too. I mean, the car was like the sporty in those certain ways, but it was still kind of boring, unfortunately, to me, you know. So apparently, like, we didn't keep the car that long, you know. I mean, we didn't keep it long. It was my mom's car, but I mean, but as far as the reliability is concerned, well, the car was fine as far as I know. It did fine for my mom all through the time that she owned it for. But but the thing was, though, like, I was noticing that the head. I mean, I was noticing that the car was losing coolant, you know, like over time. I mean, like, I had to add coolant every like maybe week or something. I had to add coolant like a considerable amount every like few days or a week or something, you know. So because the car would overheat when the coolant was low. So it was kind of overheating. I had 148,000 miles when we got rid of the car, but I mean, so the car, I know it was having an issue, like a pretty big one, and I think it was to do with the head. I mean, I think I heard about the Civics having a head problem, like a cylinder head blowing up or gaskets or whatever. I just know that Civic was going to be one of those. I knew that the car would eventually need some major work on it, although I probably would have been able to do it myself. But I mean, I was kind of like bored of the car already, so I mean, I didn't even want to bother with the car. So I decided to just sell it. I'm only like 5 months later, because if I remember, when my mom got that Civic, brand new Civic in 2015, the red one that she had, and then I know it was like a month or two later, that we offered to buy the car, because my mom held on to that one until she could think of what to do with it. and then we offered to buy it for $3,000, you know, and then I sold it, and so, but apparently, I mean, we just didn't feel it. So I mean, the car was fine overall, I would say, but I mean, but I just didn't feel it. So I mean, we decided to sell the car only I think it was probably less than 6 months later, you know, like we decided to sell it 6 months later, and we actually sold it for more money than what we offered to my mom. And I was actually told my mom that I would just give her the profit. I mean, I would just give her the extra money, but then she told me, nah, that's okay. You could keep the profits. I'm okay. So well, anyway, so that was that with that car. So yeah, I mean, the car. the 30th car that I ever owned. For the 30th ever that I owned. Well, it was a 2009 Honda Civic, white. It was a coupe. One day Jenny Lynn just wanted to look out for cars just for fun. And then we drove by this dealer. We were just looking for a car. It was kind of like another impulse thing, you know. So, well, Jenny Lynn actually wanted to get a car, so she could drive, you know, like to practice driving to get a license and stuff, you know. But so we passed by this dealer, and we went to this dealer, and then she saw this white Civic, a two-door Civic, and she loved the way she loved the car, the way it looked, and she loved the sporty look on the car. And so out of impulse, we kind of bought that car. You know, we got it on a payment plan of $200 a month, and we ended up paying like $12,000 for the car at the time. This was back in 2016. So it was So he got the car. I mean, so as far as how good the car was, well, as far as how happy I was with the car, I liked it. I mean, I liked the car. I liked the car, but I wasn't really happy with what I paid for it, though. I mean, it was too. And then another thing that I wasn't really happy about in the car was, I think it was like another one of those cars that was a lease car, because we bought it with supposedly 72,000 miles on it. You know, it supposedly had 72, but I felt like the car had more miles than that. Feel like it had more miles. I didn't feel like it had 72. It was another one of those. It was a lease car, you know. And then I didn't like how like we kind of like bought the car out of impulse, because at the end, you know, like the car had only one key, and I was thinking to myself that I should have made the dealer at least make us another key for the car before we closed the deal, but I didn't do that. I mean, a dealer should at least do that if they're like charging us a lot of money for the car, right? But anyway, I mean, overall, I mean, the car, I mean, was not bad. I mean, well, and now as far as how good it was good. I mean, I didn't have any complaints about it, but the starter, though, did break. The starter did break down on that car at less than 100,000 miles. Well, I mean, the car read less than 100,000 miles on it. I mean, well, actually, you know, we didn't really drive that car that much. Later on, so, I mean, I liked the car overall. I mean, I liked it. I mean, and it did well. I mean, it did well. Of course, it's a Honda. But the starter did break, though. I mean, it's something that we don't expect for things to happen like that. I mean, starters breaking on a Honda Civic, you know. But I know that, you know, like my brother-in-law had a problem with the Honda too. The starter broke on their car too. It was a Honda CRV, you know, like the starter broke on their car too. I mean, well, anyway, so overall the car was pretty good overall. It was nice overall, but later on Jenny Lynn wanted to sell the car because we didn't feel like we needed it again, so we sold it. I mean, I would have wanted to keep the car, but Jenny Lynn just wanted to sell the car. I mean, because we didn't feel like we needed it, so we sold it. I mean, for later, we sold it like 2.5 years later for like $6,500, and we paid like $12,000 for it at the time. We paid $12,000, and then 2.5 years later, we sold it for $6,500. Yeah. It's a 2005 Honda Element. I mean, Jenny Lynn wanted that car because, I mean, she wanted something that we could put the dog inside. So, yeah, I mean, like Jenny Lynn, so we were looking for a car, so we felt that a Honda Element made a good car for it. I mean, for that. I mean, but we kind of wanted something that would be good for roominess, you know, like, well, but we had actually originally bought the Element because we wanted something like for the dog, to bring the dog into the car. So I mean, that made a nice choice, you know. So, but overall, as far as how well I like the car. I like the Element, you know. I liked it. It did its job really well, and it was a great car for what we needed a car for. I mean, it was great for the things that I used it for. I mean, it would make a good truck, so to speak. You know, like what I liked on that car, on that Element, was that we were able to open the lift gate, and then I was able to, like, I had all that space to put like big things in it, so I was able to use it like a truck. And since the interior, I like that the flooring, it was vinyl. It was not carpeting. It was vinyl. So it was nice because it was easy to clean up. It would be easy to clean that up. And I was able to like put like I was able to put big things, or I was able to do projects in the house, like putting stepping stones in the back of that Element, and it was good for that. It was great for that. It was great to use it like a truck. So that Element served a few purposes. You know, it served. I mean, it made a good car for overall, like for everything, You know, like it's a good car for like a multi-purpose car, so to speak. You know, like it was great for roominess. You know, like when we would go on trips, we had lots of room on the back of the car. I liked it. I mean, I liked that part. But as far as how good the car did, well, I mean, it was kind of questionable. The reliability was kind of questionable, but it did not break down or anything. But but you know, like the engine, like it was getting a lot of codes on the check engine light. You know, like the engine was missing. Like it was like the engine was like, how we call that, missing. You know, like and it was the engine was kind of loping a little bit, but it was not too bad. I mean, and then I was having problems with the VTEC system, you know, because like the like the RPMs would not pass 3,000 sometimes, and it made it feel like the transmission was breaking, but it was just the VTEC system. But I actually heard that the reason why like that could happen if you don't run the right oil on the car. I mean, I heard it from Scotty Kilmer, you know, like where you gotta run the oil that the car is designed for, and don't run any different of thickness, because it could clog the small passages in those. And I guess it's the VTEC systems. I don't know what it is, but I just know that's what I heard. But anyway, and then the other thing I didn't like on that car is the gas mileage. It sucked, man. The gas mileage sucked on that car. I mean, but overall, like the Element was nice overall. I mean, I liked the Element overall. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I liked it overall. So I mean, it was a good car for a multi-purpose. It was a good multi-purpose car. I mean, we would use it as a car, and then I would use it as a truck. Like whenever I wanted to load things to do projects on a house, I could load things, and I don't have to worry about ruining it, you know, like because of the flooring was vinyl. I mean, so that was nice. Yeah, I mean, it was roomy, and then we were able to fold back the back seats, and that was great for the kids, you know. So overall, that car, it was I liked it overall. It was a good car overall. So, and then we sold it again because we didn't feel like we needed it anymore. We didn't feel like we needed it, so we sold it. I think leaving me with just the Mercury and the Kia at the time. So, and I felt that I didn't really need it. I actually wanted to keep the the um the Element, but since Jenny Lynn is sort of the one that bought it, like she wanted to sell it, so we sold it. I mean, I sold it, so I mean, and that was all. And so that was at the end of that story. Now to try to guess what's the 32nd car that we ever owned. The 32nd car is Camaro. 2002, no, 2013 Camaro. So, what do I think of this car? I mean, the styling is pretty cool. I mean, I love the styling of the car. Although it's not great. I mean, it's not the best for family gatherings and when we need a lot of room. It may not be great for that, but it's still fun to use the car, though. I mean, we like to go to family gatherings with the car. It's fun to be in this. It's fun being in this car. I mean, so the car is like, it's fun overall. I mean, although it's not exactly something that I like. I mean, it's not something that is my style. Well, it is and it isn't. It's Jenny Lynn, the one that likes the car, and so that's why we got it. Because Jenny Lynn is the one that's telling me the story that she's always loved these cars. You know, my wife, you know, she has always loved these type of cars. You know, like, ever since that she was a youngster. Ever since she was really young, she's always loved these sporty cars. Especially like the Camaro, you know. She's always loved two-door cars, you know, like. So it's a killer car for what Jenny Lynn likes, you know. It's a killer car for that, you know. So, but for me, I mean, I like the car. I mean, it's fun to use it when when we're going out for a little drive. It's fun to use it. I love the sleekness of the car. Yeah, of course. Now, as far as how good it is, man, the car's good. I mean, the gas mileage is really good on this car, actually. I mean, it's not bad, you know. Not bad for being a Camaro. I mean, you know, like I went to Sacramento with this car that other time, and I got like 25 miles a gallon on the car. I mean, it's not bad. The gas mileage is not bad on this car. I mean, the V6 is a V6. The power is really good on this car too. I mean, well, I have not had any problems with the car, so I mean, the car has been good so far. So I mean, yeah, overall the car is good. It's all good to go. I mean, the power is really good, a lot of power, and the gas mileage is really good since it's a V6, you know. I mean, and the insurance is not too expensive. I mean, it's not that expensive, but I mean, so yeah, I mean, this car overall is good. I mean, it's a good car overall. I mean, it's been reliable. I mean, I don't drive the car that much, so really, because it's just a weekend car. So yeah, so that's the story behind this car. Well, the only thing that I could probably say that is kind of like a drawback on this car is that it doesn't have a sunroof. I would have liked it if it would have had a sunroof, but I mean, the thing that I like on the car is it does have like the heated seats, and then it has a really nice stereo system in there. I mean, and then it has these really nice rims and tires, you know, like it's sporty, very sporty looking, you know. I mean, overall the car is nice. And it's a RS package, I guess. It has the extras. It has some extras on it, which I do like about the car, you know. That does have the extras. So yeah. For the grand finale of all cars. Now this is the 33rd car that I ever owned, and this is the last car I ever bought as of this date, January 29, 2022. This is the very last car that I bought since that day, or as of this day. This is the last car I bought. So, yeah, this truck right here. It's a 2005 F150. So what do I think of the car? I like the car. I mean, it's a good car. I mean, I like the way it looks. Even though the paint is kind of like faded away and stuff. I mean, it does have some flaws. I mean, it does have flaws, and it did have a little oil leak, but I fixed some of it. It's okay now. I mean, it does have some miles but the price is not too bad. I'm happy with the price. I'm happy with what I paid for the truck. So I mean, $5,000 total, of $5,200 with taxes and everything, and getting it in my name and everything, you know, total $5,200. I mean, I'm pretty happy with what I paid for the truck. So, I mean, and then the truck. I loved the fact that I have a truck because I was able to move. I was able to move everything over into this new house. It was nice to have a truck. It's nice to have a truck when we need one, because so many times, it's a number of times that I used this truck. Then I needed this truck to haul some big stuff, and that includes buying furniture, or when I sold furniture and I told them that in order for us to be able to sell the thing, I offer free delivery, and because of this truck, I'm able to do that. So I was able to sell stuff, like sell some of the furniture, because of having a truck. Otherwise, I would not have been able to deliver it, and then it would be harder to sell it. And it seems like some of this furniture was selling because I was offering free delivery. And if it wasn't for this truck, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So, I mean, yeah. So, overall, the truck, I like the truck. I love the truck right now. I mean, although it's not new, of course, and then it has its ugly paint job. But, I mean, it does its job. I mean, it does its job really well. And it's nice to have this truck when I need it. Like, when I need it, you know. So, it's nice to have it when I need it, you know, like, so, yeah. But, of course, the thing I don't like about it is the gas. It's a gas hog, so I only use it when I need it, you know. I don't use it for anything else other than when I need it, you know. So, anyway, so far it's been good. I mean, it's been good to me so far. I think the oil leak is the only thing that I really had to do on this truck so far. Like, well, I did it myself, you know. I replaced this part. It's like a gasket on the oil filter housing adapter or something. I replaced that. Well, it seems like it's still leaking some oil, but it stopped half of it. So overall, I mean, like, the truck is doing good. The air conditioner works really well. And then I like the extra perks in this truck, apparently. Yeah, so the little extra. I mean, I like the extras that this truck has, including this part right here. I love the radio. I like the radio in this truck. There's a nice stereo system in this truck. And then I like this part because it's for the trailer. Because I had thoughts about buying a trailer again, like a travel trailer. So, I mean, the condition of the truck is really nice overall, other than the paint, you know, and I like the alloy wheels on it. And then I like the sprayed in bed liner. That's another added perk. And then it does have the towing package. So, I mean, it's like, so that way I could be ready to buy the trailer, like, whenever I want. That's what I like, you know, the fact that it has all this stuff already, you know, so, so, yeah. And I mean, overall, I'm happy with the truck. I'm 100% happy with the truck overall. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, anyway, dang. I think the basketball court did that. Oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway, because the paint looks like shit anyway. So, well, I'm gonna plan on painting the truck, so, eventually, so there you have it. So it wraps it up for all cars that I ever owned in my life. Well, I hope you liked this video, this very long video. Well, I mean, it's a long video, but at least I put all the I put like the times, so you could jump directly to the car, so that way the video won't be too long, you know. So I did that so you guys don't get bored of the video. So, I mean, so anyway, I hope you liked the video. So if anybody was gonna ask me, like, what's the most satisfying experience I ever had with a car, or which car that I like the most or satisfying, I would say overall it was probably like, I would probably say this one right here. This car is the most like satisfying car that I ever bought in my entire life, and it's the car that I'm the most happiest with. But also another car that I really loved was a Mazda 66, the 84. It was probably like another one, like another of the best cars that I ever owned, or the most satisfying cars I ever bought. And another very satisfying car that I bought was a very satisfying car overall that I ever bought. It was a 2001 Nissan. No, what is it? 2001 Dodge Grand Caravan, the blue one that I had. It was like the most satisfying car that I ever had, because I had that car for 4 years, and then I sold it because I wanted a truck at the time, you know. So yeah, but I mean, I felt like I probably should not have sold it because it was a good car. I mean, well, it was good for what we needed it for. So I would say those three cars are probably the most satisfying experiences ever, including this one right here. This is one of the three. So yeah, overall. So I would say. Now, if I was going to talk about the most unsatisfying cars, which is the opposite, I mean, which was one of the most unsatisfying experience that I ever had with car, like buying everything, you know, like unsatisfying, you know, like how unhappy I was with the car just because I wasn't happy with the car or because of whatever. Number one was a Ford Escort, the black 95 Escort, because of the time, you know, like when my stepdad rushed me into that car, and I didn't even pick the car, and it was not the one I wanted. It was a dissatisfying experience, and plus I ended up paying the full price for the car. And then another very dissatisfying experience that I had with a car was my '03 Altima, the white one, because, you know, the dealer got me for the full price. I ended up paying the full price for the car, and it did not have the equipment that I wanted. So that was another very dissatisfying experience that I ever had with a car. And another car that was very dissatisfying on the experience on the car was the Toyota Tercel, the 1989 Tercel, because I would say that 1989 Tercel that I used to have is probably the top car of all cars I ever had. That was the most unsatisfying car of all. Although it was good, it was a good car, but it was the most unsatisfying of all cars that I ever owned, because it was the most boring car that I ever owned in my entire life, you know, that 1989 Toyota Tercel. So that would top the car of the most unsatisfying cars ever that I ever owned. And the two brand new ones, the 95 Escort and 2003 Altima, I wasn't happy because I wasn't happy with of the experience of buying it, because of getting ripped off, feeling like I got ripped off, and I ended up getting less equipment than I wanted originally. So it's those three cars that tops the most unsatisfying experiences I had with a car. Now for the most unreliable and most problematic cars that I had. I know my very first car, the 1983 Mercury Marquis, a white one, that car that had too many problems, you know, like it was like more than I could bear back in my day, unfortunately, you know. That's like one of the cars that was unreliable in my day. So that tops one of the cars that was the most unreliable for me back in this list. And I would probably think that another car that was unreliable and too many problems was this 2002 Eclipse. It had so many annoying problems, you know. So like that was another car that was like that I hated, because it kept having these annoying problems. You know, I kept having to fix something on that car. Had these like a lot of annoying problems. So the Mitsubishi Eclipse 2002 was another. And now for the number one car that was the biggest piece of shit of all time, it was the 1984 Mazda 626, a tan one the one that I bought as a salvage title. Funny, because the other three that I bought, they were all good cars, but the tan one, or the tan one that I bought as a salvage title, that was the worst car that I ever owned. It had so many freaking problems that car had. That car had so many problems, you know, like it's just too much, man. Like it had so many problems. So that tops the car that was the most problematic car of all cars. But of course, I had other cars that were problematic, but they were not as annoying as like these cars were. So yes, so that's that. And for the record of the most reliable car, or the cars that like did the best, or I mean, I'm just gonna be putting the cars that I put the most miles onto. It's like the red 66. It was one of the most, with the best cars ever for reliability, and that 84 Burgundy Mazda 66, my second car ever. That was a very good car. That would probably be one of the top of the list. And another car that was really good, very reliable, was this 95 Mazda Protege, the green one that I used to have. That was a very good car, a really good, reliable car. I mean, and then of course the other car that was really reliable was a 94 Sentra, the Nissan Sentra. And another car that's been really good to me too, that was really good to me, it's like the Kia Rio. I mean, my current car, my 2013 Kia Rio, it's been good to me. I drove it for 120,000 miles. I mean, so now for the cars that I've owned for the longest ever, I know the Kia Rio tops the list of a car that I owned the longest at 9 years, followed by my Mazda 66, the tan one, the one that was problematic. The tan one, I owned that car for more than 4 years, a little over 4 years. And then followed by the Dodge Caravan, the '01 Dodge Caravan, I owned that for more than 4 years as well. Or I don't know if it was exactly 4 years, or I might have been more than 4. So now for the top 3 cars that I drove the most miles on, the number 1 car is the Kia Rio 2013. That's the number 1 car that I drove the most miles on a car that I owned. And then the number 2 car is the Mazda Protege 95 at about 110,000 miles that I drove. And then followed by the 1984 tan problematic Mazda 66 that I drove 93,000 miles. Now for the cars that I owned for the shortest amount of time, I think the number 1 car is the Honda Accord, 2000 Honda Accord, that I only owned for like 4 months, and then I gave it back to my mom. That's like the shortest time I ever owned a car. Followed by the 1989 Tercel, Toyota Tercel, that I only owned for like 8 months, and then I sold it. And then followed by the 2002 Ford F150, the gray one that I had before. I had it only 9 months, and then I sold it. So those are cars that I had for the shortest times. Overall, like, it seems to me that the average time that I owned a car is about 1.5 years before I sell them. And the most common reason why I would sell a car was because I just didn't like them, or I got bored of them. That's like the most common reason why I sold a car, because I get bored of them after a while and I want something different. So here you have it. So this is gonna wrap up the whole video, the entire video. So yes, it wraps it all up. So this is like my whole life story of the car that I ever owned, including all the facts about the cars and everything. So I really hope you like the video again. So all right. I guess I'm gonna get going now. So yes, it's time to edit out the video and everything. Okay, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you on the next video. All right.